Hello and welcome back, all my favorite coder cats and coder kittens. As usual, this is Becca going by Netcat or Netcats Meow most places online, and I am here once again to talk with you about Linden scripting language. Now, when we were going over the raycasting part of the key acquisitions for my locator HUD, I did in fact deal with getting camera position. It was a minor detail in that, but it got me thinking. Maybe it's time I showed you all how to actually work with that and how to do a few things with it. So I'm going to slip into a different avatar, something that already has a couple of things on it that will work with this, and then I will go ahead and see you all in a couple minutes. Hello again, despite the incredible shining visage you see before you here. Underneath it all, I am still your favorite coder kitty. I tried for a while to run this as a super sim, and so I created a lot of avatar designs that were built with powers. Spectrum here actually has an ability that utilizes the function I wanted to show off. It's a cool little thing. It's not a super amazing. I think it's pretty cool. Let's get her powered up. I click that, you see a whole bunch of these little spheres show up, and I give them the permission, yes, to track. And then the rest of them are contained in here. And you see they wind up facing different directions based on when I triggered that. So basically the idea was one of her abilities is just create these points of laser light that will then fire in a given direction. So in order to get them to fire where I wanted them to go, I had to use camera tracking. You'll find camera tracking in things like certain short-range teleport HUDs and certain things that you can res an object where you have the camera pointed. And the way it does that is there's a simple command that will actually determine where the camera is. So in the case of this, it's for her design, I only really used it just for targeting them. So with this one, I didn't actually put the objects out through there. I only send a command to actually, you know, y'all have to give me a second while I remember where I put her lasers. Okay, I found them. Problem of not always showing you something I made in that week. This one simply receives the command from her HUD that says fire, and then proceeds. This little security lock just says get the key of whoever owns the object that was speaking, which is from here, key who is the key of the object that's speaking. Get owner key who is asking who is the person, what is the key of the person that owns the key that I'm analyzing. If that does not equal get owner, it returns. It just nopes out of the process. Otherwise, it runs a function I created, beam, which asks for a vector where, you may remember from other things, any point in space in the sim is a vector. So vector where.x equals frand 0.5 plus 0.3. So that gives it anywhere from 0 to 1/2 and then plus 0.3. Same way it works for y, same way it works for z. And then it adds if frand is less than 1, it is times minus 1. This is where you get the, or I'm sorry, I'm reading that wrong. It runs a randomizer for 2. If the result is less than 1, it multiplies it by minus 1. So these results can only be positive. This little thing determines whether to make it a negative or not. And since we established a vector, each one is vector.x, so I'm dealing with the individual coordinates for each one. So once those are assembled, it reses object beam at get position plus. So wherever I am, it adds the result of this randomization and then plus or minus determined here. It does not put any velocity on it. It does not put any rotation on it, and it does not send any special command integer to the resed object to process. So the next point that gets interesting is to look at the beam object itself. So what does it do? On res, it resets the script. So that means it runs as though it's starting from scratch with state entry. It receives a listen, where we can just put a lock on that. It plays a sound effect, and it requests permission to track camera. The permissions, if permission equals track camera, that means if that permission is active, it runs the point code. Point tells it to look at get camera position right there. We're going to actually analyze that get camera position line, and then it sets the primitive parameters to a second link number. This specifically adjusts the size, and it calculates vector distance of between get position and get camera position and multiplies that by 1.5. What is that all going to do? Well, I'm going to show you right quick what this does again. And this is just an example of how you take the pieces of code you're working with to create an overall effect. So it took the difference between where our camera was and there, and then multiplied it by a particular amount, allowing them to determine how far the beam was going to extend up to the maximum it's capable of. So if I'm in a role-play environment, these are utterly intangible objects. Object, temporary and phantom. They'll delete themselves after 1 minute. And they're actually really simple. They're just 2 prim, the ball, and then inside it, the actual beam. By setting its rotation to look at the camera, I'm then able to make sure that the beam will be facing the correct direction. By getting that vector distance, I'm able to determine how far to have them go. And we're going to look at both of those commands on the wiki and break down why this works. Sorry this hasn't been the smoothest process to show you what all I've got there, but not everything that I show you is something I created the week I make the video. Sometimes I'm pulling out stuff I've had for a while. I hope I don't get copyright nailed by Nintendo because I had a Pikachu image there. Ah yes, this is just, I built her a little thing when the phone HUD is open. The in-character one just extends her thing like a hologram. That was just a bit of in-character fluff I created for her back when I was using this character for roleplay purposes. So, alright, the get camera position command just simply returns a basic vector. that is the current camera position for the agent the task has permissions for. So that was where we had to go through and set the permissions for the camera. Then that particular script has permissions to know where my camera is, and it pulls that information. The other one was vector distance. Clearly, I'm not remembering correctly how I did that. Give me one moment to pull out another one of these. Vec distance, that's what I was doing wrong. Getting a video that's full of reminders that I am imperfect. Should make that guy that thought my note card reading was too laggy happy. He sees I am not perfect. And as you see exactly how I used it, it produces a float, which is a floating point variable, which is basically it has decimal points in it, of the undirected non-negative distance between vector A and vector B. What non-directed non-negative means is that it is just literally these 2 points are this far apart. It does not care what direction it's in. That's the undirected. And it won't be a negative number because so that if you have one where all of the coordinate numbers were moving in up, and then the second one you put in, they all were lower, then you don't have to worry about it producing a negative value because it will really give you the actual distance. It doesn't matter what the relative points are. So this was one thing you can do using camera position and distance, is you can make a cool effect of a beam going out in that direction. I'm going to show you one other thing I made. I have to switch avatars again though. And that is a short-range camera-based teleport. Okay. I actually used to play in a Fallout Equestria thing. Look it up, it's actually pretty cool. It's a mashup of My Little Pony and Fallout that should not work, but somehow does. And I remembered when I brought this character back up that calling it a teleport isn't 100% accurate. It's more of just kind of a forced slide, but it shows you what I'm talking about. I position my camera, say, over here, and I click the control, and she'll make as much of a jump as she can in one movement directly over there. And the way that that ultimately works is that I just am setting a part of her up to an attachment that repositions itself based on trying to move towards my camera as much as it can. And then the rest of this effect is just a bunch of ribbon particles that I created to give the effect some weight. Where is she? Stuck in the street. And that actually is where you see one of the possible physics side effects in a setup like this, is that if you're moving at too high a velocity, it becomes possible to actually, that for your movement position to update faster than the physics will recognize. So give me one moment, I'll see if I can find the exact code that controls it. I have to remember which piece of her I put it in. Okay, I've got it actually right here. This is how you do a camera-based teleport system. The magic to it is right here. Move to target, and this would be a vector of whatever the place you're trying to move to is. It's actually set up here, vector posit equals get camera position, and then how fast you want to get there. In this case, half of a tenth of a second. So, yeah, pretty fast. Which is why it physics glitched through the street here. The rest of this code is just things that set up the overall visuals. The other part you need is a stop, move to target. Otherwise, you're going to be perpetually pushed through to it. So she'll move as far as she can towards that position over the course of 1 second. And then stop, move to target. And then the rest of this code just sets off, turns on or off various parts of the visual effects that went into her moving that way. So there you have the base, a couple of things you can do with the ability to track the position of your camera. You can create cool laser effects that might randomly appear around you and then go to a specific spot, which means you can make other visual effects that track to a specific location. You can also set a avatar to move to a specific location based on camera position. You can res objects if you're close enough to where the camera is. So it gives you quite a lot of options with only a couple of simple commands. So if any of this wasn't clear enough, I will probably be going over each of these over the course of the next couple of decoded videos where I'll go back over the specifics of the commands, but hopefully this is something that can be understood at this point. If not, let me know where I'm falling short. I have a Discord link in the description of the video. So feel free to hop on there, talk it over with a couple of other people from the channel. It's actually quite a helpful little community we're developing. And if I'm not clear enough on a thing, let me know and I will work to improve. I don't know if I'm falling short if you all don't tell me. So that'll be it for this week. So good day, good luck, good week, happy coding. Meow.